What's up? How you doing? Here we are, Wednesday night, spaghetti night again. We're having spaghetti with very good meat sauce, and the crows are back. Just hundreds of them flying by. Every night around this time, the crows, I don't know where they're going, but lots of them. You know, if we ever had a food shortage, I would be out here with my slingshot eating crow. Anyway, so we have Mexican Coca-Cola. Mexican Coca-Cola. This stuff is the best. Best stuff. Real cane sugar in here. None of that corn syrup. I know it's the same thing, but to me it doesn't taste the same. Look at that. Glass bottle. Wow, look at all these crows. Like tons of them. Crazy. Anyway, we got the ice. That's good stuff. The same kind in Europe too. They used to have the taste test, Coca-Cola versus Pepsi. And I always thought when I was younger, well, they taste the same, but they don't taste the same. For me, and it's just my opinion, but Coca-Cola tastes much better. Of course, Pepsi would say most people pick Pepsi, but I don't think so. They pick it. If you say, I got 2 drinks here, try them. Try the Pepsi one. That's the good one. They'll pick that. But for me, Coca-Cola, especially the Mexican Coca-Cola, night and day. Look at that. Let it sit for a second to get nice and cold. Yeah, Europe has the same style. You go to Europe, you say, give me a Coke. They'll bring you the Coca-Cola just like that, and it tastes just like that. Very refreshing. Even the smell is refreshing. Delicious. You don't want to have too many of these, but once in a while. Moderation. Earlier today I was thinking about the Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. And I was thinking, you know, David Banner, skinny guy, a little bit like a twerp. He got angry a little bit too often. Everything pissed him off. Every week, a few times a week, he got angry. Like over the top angry. I know people get angry, but he got angry all the time. And you would think if you had an issue with turning into a monster, you would maybe get a job at a library, or, you know, maybe you'd become a gardener. Something simple. He always got jobs where people were trying to beat him up. You know, a lot of anger issues there. And like I said, the fact that you're able to turn into the Hulk, you think you would kind of control yourself or stay away from places like, you know, where the tough guys hang out. Get a job at a supermarket, maybe at the produce department, something like that. But he got angry way too often. In reality, they would probably say to him, you got to go to that anger management class, stick him in there for a couple of months, tell him to calm down. He was always like, getting angry. Small guy, what are you getting angry about? So, but I love that show. For the time it came out, they kind of eliminated the corniness. A lot of shows back in those days had a strong touch of corniness. They were very campy. But the Incredible Hulk was not really like that. And I like the concept of him drifting around. And nobody said to him, give me your SS card, I gotta fill up that application. He always got these decent jobs, and they always paid him cash. I never understood that. I mean, maybe it was easier in those days than it is now, but he always went to different jobs. They never said to him, hey, we need some work history here. What did he put down? Did they ever call up the previous place and say, yeah, there was a guy, his name was David, whatever, last name he gave, don't hire him. Every time he was around, this green monster would show up and tear up the place. So nobody asked him for a resume or work history. Where'd you work the last 3 years? If they asked him that, he would have like 80 jobs. He'd fill up a application maybe 50 pages long. And then if one of them called up, yeah, they'd say, that guy, I don't know. There was always problems with him. And some jobs were the kind of job where you need experience. What did he put down? So, yeah, but I was a huge fan of that show. When I was little, one of my teachers who knew I was a fan of the show sent in another kid to get me from my class. And he says, fourth grade teacher wants to see you. And I'm like, all right. So I ended up going there, and she's like, check this out. So from that book club, Scholastic, where you would buy books and then would give you a free poster. Well, her class bought a bunch of books, and they sent her a poster of Lou Ferrigno transforming into the Incredible Hulk. And that was the first time I had seen the human who plays the Hulk. Never even thought there was a person. I just, I was a kid back then, never really thought of it. And I couldn't stop staring at it. They had, one picture, he looked normal. Then they had the forehead thing. Then they had the wig, all that makeup. And I was like, wow, that's him? But I was such a fan of that show. And the first time I saw it was in my room. Had a black and white Zenith television. So I couldn't tell whether he was green. I didn't know if the Hulk was green. I was not a comic book guy. I will say that a couple of times when I bought comic books, it was just to get the ad for Charles Atlas. I was fascinated with Charles Atlas in those days, so I would buy comic books and I would write Charles Atlas Inc. for information. That's the only reason I would buy those. I never was into comic books. But anyway, so I didn't know green. I didn't know what color he was supposed to be. On my TV, he looked gray. Everybody was saying, oh, the green monster. I was like, he's not green. So first episode came out. My father was working late that night. So my mother and my sister, they came into my room, and we were all like sitting there watching this new show, The Hulk, Incredible Hulk. And I was like, pulled in. And my mother was like, wow, he's fat. I'm like, that's not fat. That looks like fat. So from that point on, he became the fat guy. In my house, it was like, oh, you watching the fat guy this week? I was like, that's the Hulk. It's not the fat guy. So we watched that and instantly became a fan. But then, right after it, the Dukes of Hazzard came on. And I got pulled into that show. I was fascinated with the jumping of the car, the fast driving of Bo Duke and Luke once in a while. But mostly Bo drove the General Lee. And I was a fan of the Uncle Jesse thing. I couldn't figure out how the three cousins ended up in the same house being raised by the uncle. I don't even know if they ever answered that question. How did the uncle get the three cousins? And then they had that, it was like the mayor of Hazard County, commissioner, whatever the hell, Boss Hogg. And then Roscoe, Pete Coltrane. Can't get enough. Enos. Then they had a Cletus. What kind of name is Cletus? Cletus. Sounds too close to something else. They said, what are we going to call this guy? We're going to call him Cletus. I don't know why they picked that name, Cletus. Does anybody really have a name, Cletus? Tough guy. Oh, shook that. Tough guy with a little motor, and probably has one of those wings on the back on his trunk. Keep the car stable. I'm gonna get one of those put on my truck. But anyway, I became a huge fan of the Dukes of Hazzard, the way they would jump that General Lee, and they were always in some kind of situation, but it was a good, you know, a feel-good show. You'd sit there, it was entertaining, it had kind of ridiculous storylines, but they were good. I enjoyed watching that. You know, they're always being chased by Sheriff Roscoe. There was an episode where he was chasing them, and very emotional episode, and they jumped to get away from him, and they landed in some pond or something, and the General Lee sank, and he was looking, and they never came back up, and they said they died. They thought they died. I mean, nobody went to check. He didn't go, you know, let me see what's going on here. Eventually they had to come up for air, so they escaped out the side there, and he was looking, and he was like, so then he had to go and tell Uncle Jesse, and he's like, I can't believe it. Then they had a funeral. They never recovered the bodies. Why would you not be able to recover the bodies from a pond? The current swept them out. I mean, what was it, quicksand? They went all the way to the bottom. They didn't find any bodies, yet they had a funeral. Nobody said, wait a minute, there's no bodies. Are we sure they died? Nobody said that. They just assumed that Bo and Luke died. Then they showed up back at the Uncle Jesse ranch, and everybody was like, I think Daisy saw him first, and Uncle Jesse. Uncle Jesse was like, had that look. But they were being chased by Roscoe for maybe moonshine. Maybe that's why they pretended to die, as if he was going to arrest him and put him away forever. But it's a good show. The Boar's Nest. They always had some famous guy drop by. My favorite one was when Roy Orbison dropped by, and he was singing. They always had somebody show up, narrated by Waylon Jennings. I'm a big fan of Waylon Jennings. But yeah. And then I thought, when I get older, I was thinking in my head as a kid, I'm going to get a car, and I want to put heavy-duty shocks, and I'm going to be jumping like that. Because I thought it was easy. I thought you jump, you land, you drive off, and everything's fine. I thought it was safe. But if you jump once like that, you're probably going to get killed. Probably. If you're not going to get killed, you're not going to have that car again, because you're going to total it. I mean, they went through like a couple of 300 cars maybe, while the show was being filmed. Started running out of cars. But yeah, you jump like that and forget it. That car is going to be you know, garbage. Send it straight to the dump. But every week they were doing a few jumps. Of course, they had Cooter fixing it up after. And there was that old lady in the post office, Maybelle or something, and then Boss Hogg's wife, Lulu Hogg. And I knew Lulu Hogg before she became Lulu Hogg. She used to be, what was her name there on the Waltons? Some aunt or something showed up, became like a babysitter. Forget what they called her on that show. Peggy. I don't remember, but yeah, she was on the Waltons. And then that Boss Hogg. That Boss Hogg was like an Einstein. He spoke like 5 languages. He had a degree in, I don't know what it was, chemistry or something. But he was educated, and he was very smart, and he knew a lot of languages. Did not have that ridiculous accent in real life. I remember there was an episode where, and I've never tried this, but he was in his office eating raw liver. He's cutting the raw liver up and then eating it. You think about it, and it sounds disgusting. But I've never eaten raw liver, but I have eaten raw meat, like raw steak, totally raw. I've eaten that, not now, we're talking decades ago when I was, you know, a kid. I was a huge steak eater. Still, you know, I still eat steak, you know, often, but when I was a kid, I barely would put it on the fire, just enough to give it a little brown on the outside, just a little bit, and then I would eat it raw. My mother, who was on the opposite side of the spectrum on that issue, my mother would eat it until it became like charcoal, well done. And she's like, how do you eat that? And I'm like, that's the way you're supposed to eat it. You cook the outside at high temperature, and the inside is like cooked raw, not even cooked, just raw. But when I was little, I would eat it raw, totally raw. My mother was like saying to me, where's the steak? I'm like, I ate that. She's like, oh, you cooked it? I go, not exactly. I didn't cook it, but I ate it. I've never eaten the other stuff raw. I've never eaten raw pork, raw chicken. You end up getting sick. But meat, you can get away with it. You know, I mean, the best thing to do is cook the outside extremely hot, high temperature, 1200 degrees. And the inside should be red like a Corvette. Of course, I've eaten raw fish because we've eaten, what do you call it, sushi. LAPD, here they come. They found us. Let them go. I bet you if the crows were flying right now, LAPD would go much higher. Chop up the crows. So anyway, every once in a while you have a night of insomnia. Now, I haven't had a night of insomnia in a very long time, maybe tonight, but every once in a while you'll go to bed at the right time and you're like, okay, I should be getting drowsy now, and then you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, I'm still awake, and I'm still awake, and I'm still awake. You're looking at the clock, 10 minutes go by, 15 minutes go by, a half hour goes by, and you're like, this is not working out. So I don't know what happens that particular night. It's almost like your body needs a reset. Once you pass over that night, the next night everything goes back to normal. Then all of a sudden you're sleeping again. But there's always that one night, maybe one out of every 120 nights, I don't know, maybe 150 nights. I sleep late, but I don't have insomnia. When I go to sleep, I fall asleep within, you know, a short period of time. I'm out. I'll wake up in the morning. And I had a dream the other night. This is a dream I dread. It's the dream where you're actually urinating in your dream at the toilet. And the reason I dread it is because how does your brain know not to confuse the real urination with the dream urination? So I had a dream the other day. I was in the bathroom doing my business, urinating, and it was going on and on and on. In the dream, I'm saying, this is like 2 gallons worth of urine. What's going on here? It kept coming out and coming out. So I finish in the dream, and then a while later I wake up, and when I woke up I had to go. Like bad, I had to go. I was like, oh, I gotta go. And then I was thinking, wow, imagine if in that dream my mind confused the dream with reality, and I was just like, oh, I'm going for real. So I don't like those dreams. Yeah, when I was a little kid, like 10 years old, went to the doctor, pediatrician, which, by the way, my pediatrician just died recently, like a couple of months ago. When I used to go to him, he was like early 30s. And I remember when I was a little older, I said to my father, you know, can I get a real doctor now? I got a kid's doctor. Can I get like a doctor for adults? My father was like, he's a good doctor. I'm like, yeah, but I'm 28. So, but he was a good doctor. One time I had poison ivy, and it was after hours type of thing. Might have been even like a Sunday or something. And that Monday we were having pictures taken, school pictures, class pictures. Getting dark. Anybody see me? And I had poison ivy all over my face, so I ended up, you know, usually I would just, you know, wait it out and it would go away after a week or so. But we had pictures and I wanted to get rid of it. Called up the doctor and I went there and he's like, wow. And it wasn't my regular doctor, it was an older doctor, and he was on the second floor. So I went to the second floor and my eyes were all like closing up and everything was like, you know, everywhere, all of my body. So he gave me, he said, oh, I'm going to give you something. And I said, good, because usually you go in there and they say, put some calamine lotion on there, you'll be fine. That stuff does nothing, zero. Don't even waste your time with that. I used it a couple of times when I was little and very disappointed. Horrible. Does nothing, zero. So anyway, takes out his little pad there, writes out a prescription, gave me two things. He gave me one thing for the itching, and he gave me a cream. And I said, oh, they actually have creams for this, so prescription strength. So I ended up going to the pharmacy and I got the cream and I got the pills. Now, I put the cream on many times. So I had the alarm. Every hour and a half I'd get up and put cream on because I wanted to get rid of it by the next day. And I woke up in the morning after putting like 6 layers of this cream on, and I looked in the mirror and it was pretty much gone. I was like, wow, that's amazing. I went in the next day and it was slightly red, like slightly red, but it kind of looked like normal again. So I'm a big advocate of that cream. And then I took the pill, you know, for the itching, but it was a very strong antihistamine and it made me sleepy all day. So I didn't take any more. I just took that one, but it was like an antihistamine, like Benadryl or something. But anyway, yeah, my pediatrician died recently, and apparently he was well liked. A lot of people commented of what a great doctor he was. But I will say, he was a great doctor, but he was a little heavy-handed with the shots and vaccines. I'm talking about literally. He would jab you with it, and it felt like you were putting a you know, a big needle in slow motion into your arm. I want to tell him, did you learn how to do this the proper way? Because that's not the proper way. Very painful. And then I remember he brought in a nurse, and then she would do it, and I go, she knows how to do it. Why don't you watch a little bit here? But yeah, he was very, I don't know, too much power. I don't know, I'm trying to prove a point, but anyway, getting dark, so that's it. Good night.